Catherine, the Hysterical Yogi here, everyone. And I'm going to call this lesson, Get to Know Your Body. This is based off the teachings of the Gitananda ashram in India that my teacher, Laurent Rohr, trained at for many years, and it's called three-part breathing or sectional breathing. But before we could use any of those techniques, we need to get to know where we breathe in our body. I was trained to do this exercise, interestingly, before I had COVID and then after I had it. And it actually was very frightening because I noticed how much lung capacity I'd lost. And so having personally experienced this as revealing something that was a bit anxiety-inducing, for any of you who might equally also be prone to anxiety, I will instruct you to retreat back to safety of a place of sensation of just breathing in the nose, because I'll begin walking you through this where our breath starts, at the inhalation in the nose, and then we're going to be moving into thoracic breathing, upper chest, mid-chest breathing, and then abdominal diaphragmatic belly breathing, lower breathing. And we're going to explore where we have tightness, where we have movement, where we might be tending to breathe into or not. And we'll be covering it, examining it in 360, from the front of our body, the side, the back. So when I was doing this again, I noticed some restrictions and tensions. And just so if that induces any anxiety, your safe space is to come back to the nose. And then what that is just feeling the sensation of the air. It's a very subtle one as it comes in and out of your nostrils. So that is your, okay, what we're exploring. It's not safe for me anymore. It's building some tension. I'm getting into a story about something, and that is upsetting me. So obviously in my case, if I'm ever doing a breathwork practice and I'm like, man, I really can feel how much my right lung got reduced and compromised in that illness. I can build tension, anxiety, and get into a whole little and a few minutes later I'm just going. So that's what a story looks like in me. If you're not familiar of what a story in your head and thought pattern then unleashes on your body, that's what anxiety looks like. Some of us actually have anxiety and aren't aware of it, which is why I would mention this in such a step-by-step sort of thing. It is astounding how many of us are unaware that that's a 1, 2, 3 kind of pattern that we do. Hence, I illustrated. So, please take your seat. What I imagine that you have done is what I have already done, which is a physical warm-up of stretching the upper body and opening it before we examine any part of the whole breathing anatomy. We want to make sure that it would be stretched out, but I am not doing that here, so I'm hoping that you did that beforehand, which would be stretching out the front of the body, the side, the back, the shoulders, the neck, in order to free up all of these upper body muscles that help us inhale. And then our lower ones that, it's where the exhalation comes from, very much from the abdomen. I won't try and name muscles because it gets people distracted. So, inhale and sigh out on sound. 2 more times. And then continuing with our polyvagal theried exercise, we'll now engage our eyes to just scan our space, making sure that we engage our peripheral vision to set ourselves at ease with the idea that we have predators all around us, which when we are in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, that's what's going on. So, we've done our little exercise, and now we're going to start the breath at the nose, moving slowly down. You can do this again, eyes closed or open. So make sure your spine is stacked. that you're seating in a way that, if you're not seated on a pillow, that's fine. Again, on a chair, that is base of the spine, spinal column stacking up. You're neither leaning into the chair nor hunching forward. You're standing up on your own. Your spinal cord is balancing up on its own. And there's no strain in the hips or pelvic area. So that means your feet are flat on the floor, not hanging. No strain in the knees, so everything is perfectly aligned if you're in a chair. Your hands should be on your thighs, arms of chair if that's easier. We will be using our hands to explore where the breath goes. But please begin by dropping into your breath and drawing your attention to its entry point at your 2 nostrils. Our jaw is relaxed, our throat is as relaxed as can be, and behind our eyes, we've let any ocular holding tension go. And we're noticing the breath at the nose. Inhaling slowly, gradually, and smoothly, as much as that may be possible. And now notice the air moving from the tip of your nostrils to where you feel the sensation of it entering at the back of your throat. And we're actually going to begin lower down by placing 1 or 2 hands on the front of the belly. 2 hands would look like this. For me, this creates a bit much shoulder tension, so I alternate with just one, and I switch on and off as my shoulder will fatigue. Because as you can see, I've got very slim upper body here. And now, notice the motion of your belly moving with the breath. And so your attention is going from the breath entering at the nose to then the corresponding movement of the rise and fall of your diaphragm. And now, if you can take your second hand without fatiguing your shoulders too much, I invite you on the lower belly level to place it a little bit on the side of the edge of your rib cage. So it's right here where the tail of your rib cage would be drifting off, so that the front hand would be here at this little triangle, and your side hand is here. You can go like this if it makes it easier. I like to do the back of my hand. And again, allow the breath to come in smoothly and evenly. And you are registering again the entry point at the nose, and then the side expansion of the rib cage, and the opening in the front with the movement of the diaphragm as it happens in your lower abdominal section of breathing. And now I'm going to take my hands around to the back and place them upside down. This is something actually my voice teacher used to do with me in opera training in university. So they're creating a little bit of a sort of a holding corset, but not creating strain in my shoulders. And again, I'm not forcing, I'm not tensing, I'm just feeling the expansion of my rib cage into my hands on the breath. And if you don't have a lot of movement in these places, that's fine. Even if it's a tiny movement, there is movement happening with the breath. Again, if you build up tension because you're not feeling something you think you should be feeling, bring your attention back up to the entry point of the breath and just stay with it in even breaths. You notice any anxiety, tension building, stories starting in the head, retreat back up to the nose, And just feeling gently the entry point of the breath there. Whispering in and out gently. However, if it's safe for you, I'd like to invite you to move up to the mid-chest with me, mid-chest breathing. Now, you can do this by placing 2 fingers here in the center of, be the center of your kind of breastbone. You'll feel a little bit of an indent here. I am very, very tight personally in this area, so I do not move that much there. So for me, and with upper shoulder tension, rotator cuff injuries chronically over the years, I do this with the back of my hands like this, placing them at the sides of my rib cage. You can also do one hand in the center if you choose. Whatever makes you more comfortable, this is better for me. And again, maintaining that smooth, even breath, or returning to it. I invite you to explore and witness the movement of your mid-chest breathing, your thoracic breathing. Most of the motion in this area is sideways, not front to back. But whatever you're noticing, however big or subtle it is, just register. Always keeping in mind to witness the quality of the breath. Does focusing on an area change that? So the breath is entering at the nose, but the directed attention is toward the sensation of how the breath arrives and then departs from the mid-chest. Breathing, obviously, that occurs here, as you would imagine, has a great effect on the heart and lungs. Whereas abdominal breathing has an effect on the abdominal organs and massaging them as our diaphragm moves. So similarly, the heart is massaged in a way. Now this is a toughie to feel the back here. Some can do, if you're a super yogi and you are used to putting this hand behind your back, you can maybe place the back of your hand on your back, but that's a super yogi move. Most of us can't do it. Another way that's much more accessible to us would be to give yourself a bit of a hug, and you want your fingers to be wide so that they're really wrapping around. Again, you can try and stay in line with what would be like a bra strap kind of a section, and try and target that area with the backs of your fingers. Again, this is hard because we're constricting the shoulders so much in this move that it will affect breathing. But I ask you to try and take a few deep breaths, even though it'll feel like you're fighting against it. Just only to feel the movement at this part of your back when you breathe. So as odd as the position is, try and breathe in an even, slow manner. And feel the movement of your hands and your rib cage at the back spreading apart. If I cross my arms around me like this, I feel very much how much the arms completely restrict the breath. And I have to wait to the end of my breath to feel that movement under my fingers at the back, but it brings me an awareness of how there is indeed a way for me to breathe into my back. So I'm just going to sit for a second without touching it and direct my attention to the back, the middle back, and breathing into it. And now I'll contrast that with imagining that I'm breathing right here into the front. Again, I'm staying in my mid-chest, not my upper chest, so it's not coming up too much. As I direct my attention, it does alter my breathing. You would want to practice this breath and getting to know these different areas of your body regularly because, as we know from scientific experiments in the field with, say, animals, bringing a scientist observer into a wild situation in nature with animals changes the situation and the behavior because the animals are aware of the presence of the observer. So in the same way, you're bringing observation to your breath. It will change because you're observing it. I invite you to practice this again and again to become acquainted with the quality of your breath in these different areas and how your observing it might change it, and then how you can, as you practice observing your abdominal, your mid-chest, and shortly we'll do upper chest breathing, as you observe these and practice it, you will relax more into being and stop reacting to your observation on the breath. This took me a while. Again, breathing in deeply through the nose, feeling it slip through to the back of the throat. And now we're going to focus on the upper chest, thoracic breathing. So take your fingers in little points like this, and I'm going to invite you to nuzzle them. And I have a really pronounced area with my skinny upper body here of this little clavicular kind of patch right here. And our lungs actually go up this high. So if you can, I'm going under my shirt this way. You can rest yours on your shirt, but you want to find this little divot here. Mine's visible, not on most people. So you'd kind of want to feel your collarbone, and you could even straddle your collarbone with a thumb below and fingers above it, or you could nestle them right here, as you choose. These are the two little areas you'd want to explore in the front, your clavicular breathing, hence clavicle. So again, drawing your attention inward. Breath entering the nose, back of the throat, and then it will actually likely only give you movement towards the end of your inhale. It's nearly imperceptible. Don't change or direct your breath to make it move. It will be, as the French say, a soupçon, like a suspicion of a movement under your fingertips. And now I invite you to take your hands flat out in front of you, and then watch how I am going to place them really, really right there at the top of my trapezius muscles. Like it's right here at the base of my neck. I'm really, really up here. And so once again, this is so high up at the top of your lungs that the movement will be occurring up here only once you've filled up the lower part of the lungs, the middle part of the lungs. So it will barely be perceptible, but there is breath occurring up here. When we feel a lot of movement up here, and we're doing a lot of clavicular breathing, it can make us a little tense and anxious, because this is how we get a lot of blood flow to the brain quickly. Upper chest breathing. It has its purpose. You cannot demonize any single one of the breaths. Diaphragmatic, mid-chest, or clavicular. We get what we need in our upper chest breathing, but it's not very comfortable. Now I invite you to take your hands down, and having identified these 3 different sections of your breathing, I'm going to ask if you can attempt to direct your attention and the beginning of your breath to your belly, which we're going to call section 1. And then your direction of breath will start down there, and then it will continue to 2, mid-chest breathing. And then to 3, clavicular. Your exhalation will likewise start at what we're going to call 3, belly, 2, thoracic, 3, upper chest, clavicular. If I were to exaggerate this for you visually, what this would look like was I exhale completely, inhaling to 3, 2, 1. So that's an exaggerated version for you. Exhaling 3, 2, 1. Repeat. Now we are manipulating and controlling the breath with this movement to be entirely clear. So it is an effort concerted work. So you might get tired, and keep that in mind and stop. So I'm going to ask if you follow my pattern, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1 for the exhale. However, the purpose of this exercise is that you can go off with the knowledge of, I seem to be more of a belly breather. I'm going to draw more attention to my mid-chest breathing when I work. Or you might be a classic upper chest breather, and then you're like, ooh, I'm going to try and direct attention to my belly breathing and my mid-chest breathing. As I explained earlier, in myself, I have a lot of tightness in the upper chest from the way I'm anatomically designed. And I don't have a lot of movement in the rib cage, but I have movement down here. I hold a huge amount of tension here. I have a shortened pec. I have a lot of tension in my transverse thoracis. We have a muscle that goes like this called our transverse thoracis. So you might find a similar thing, because this is all what I got from being a desk worker for many years. And since most of us are phone workers and desk workers all day long, you might find that mid-chest breathing is a bit restricted for you as well. But we are all unique. And whatever your history of shoulder injuries, tightness, neck tension, these will all contribute to how you breathe in different areas than I do. So we'll just practice this very briefly again for a few seconds. But I invite you to practice on your own. It is only through direct felt experience that any intellectual thought construct becomes manifest within us. So, returning to inhaling at the nose and directing the breath down as evenly as possible to the belly on the inhalation. Filling up finally at the very end of our inhalation, the tips of our lungs. And seeing if I can invite a pauseful before I initiate my exhalation from my belly. And that means from the front, from the sides, the back, to then moving on to finish the exhale, the front, the sides, and the back of my mid-chest. And then finally clearing out the last little bit of air at the top. That's a very, very step thought out way through your breath. That's why we're really, really taking time here with this one. So let's do another side just to reset. And let the breath come in at the nose. And so I'll begin the count, drawing attention to each section as we inhale. So exhale fully, and then inhale to 3, 2, 1. Pause. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. Pause. Let it initiate. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. And come to rest and normal breath. There should not be any tension or quick inhales. If there is, that's just a sign that you need to give yourself a bit more time and not rush. When we are learning breaths like this that are altering our breathing consciously in a controlled way, because we are focusing on the muscles to then notice that we might, for example, again, my case, not be breathing in the mid-chest. When I am passing through the inhalation at the mid-chest, it takes a bit more concerted effort. And so it's very different from just witnessing, because I am altering the breath with this. And that's why we need to stay very vigilant to how that then creates emotion or tension as I'm making an effort to breathe in my middle chest, for example. Thoracic breathing can really, if I'm really thinking about this one too hard and I feel it's not happening for me and there's tightness and I'm getting wrapped up in it, it can start an anxious situation for me. And so I ask you to just be aware of that. And if that occurs for you, as I have explained it might, to witness it, know it, and back away from it. Very often when we're learning something like this, we think that we're doing it wrong, right? If there's tension, we're like, I must be doing it wrong. I have an opera singer friend in the UK, and he says, most people just don't know how to breathe. Singers, we breathe for a living. And he says, if you ask most people, you say to most people, take a deep breath. He says, the first thing he sees people do, and he says, take a deep breath, is they do this. So bringing awareness to the different areas where we should have some movement, ideally, hopefully not all of us do, because it's really hard. The way we move every day, like just driving, just like anyone who drives or uses a phone. This is a motion of this with your hands, this to the computer. Anyone who's doing these motions, we're creating constriction tension that will affect our breath, which is why I, again, mentioned that a physical warm-up is a very good thing to do before any of these exercises. Bringing warmth to the area with heating pads is another good thing to do, stretching out before you do this. So I encourage you, again, 3-part breathing, to practice this, and in moments of relaxation to explore where and how you breathe. How does your body breathe you, and how do your emotions breathe you? That's a big one, because they both will influence the other. So, belly breathing, front, sides, back, mid-chest, front, sides, back. Just for awareness, it probably won't help too much to focus on here. So again, be very gentle when exploring clavicular breath. For me, I can make an entire exercise out of mid-chest breathing just like this. This can just be Catherine checking in with herself right here. Okay, we're just going to feel side movement. So in the most minute 30 seconds that you might have to yourself somewhere to explore, you might just go, all right, Sam, all right, Sue, whatever your name is, we're going to explore this right now. We're going to explore the front and the sides of the lower belly for a few minutes. Have fun with it. Good luck. Namaste. May you breathe well and deep.